Well, my name's Robin Dresser, for who you don't, I pretty much recognize most of you. But I've been with Sutton Fire for 21 years now. I'm a district chief. I'll tell you quickly a little bit about the department, just to kind of bring you up to speed on the department. I'll talk a little bit about some home fire safety, some cooking fire prop that I brought that you guys can try out afterwards, and an extinguisher fire prop that I brought you that you guys can try out too if you want to. Nobody has to do it if they don't want to, but I'll do the demo, and then if you at the end, and then you guys.
Bacon and eggs?
I wish.
Oh.
It's just play.
Well, I'm leaving.
It's just play food right now. So, for Sutton Fire, we have 4 full-time members. I'm one of them. There's the chief, myself, Renee Roy, and Jeff Briggs, and then we have about 30 call volunteer firefighters, and a mixture of them are EMTs as well. We have 3 stations, one in Wilkes at 14 Providence Road, the one down in Manchog here at 343 Manchog Road, and then the one that's at our town at Town Hall, which is 4 Uxbridge Road. We are covered by a MedStar ambulance, so we have a private ambulance service that covers the town. They're here 24/7, stationed out of Station 1, and they run a paramedic and a basic on the ambulance. So outside of that, we run along with them on medical calls, and then any other fire, emergency rescue calls, we go along too. So home fire safety stuff. Pretty much you should have smoke and CO alarms within your house. You can either have a single smoke alarm, combination with this is here. And this one talks to you, which most of the combination alarms will talk to you. They'll tell you if it's a fire alarm or if it's a carbon monoxide alarm. So a lot of them, like this one, would be hardwired and interconnected. A lot of the older homes, if it was built before '75 and there was no renovations, would be just battery operated smoke alarm and CO alarms. We do have a program. There'll be a sign-up sheet afterwards if you want to come and have myself or someone else from the fire department come in and do a home fire safety inspection. We can install battery operated smoke and carbon monoxide alarms. If you have hardwires that need to be updated, there's a couple of licensed electricians through the senior center here that they can have you contacted with. There's other things that we offer that I did forget to mention from the department. We have 2 certified car seat inspectors, installers, so that's Renee and Jeff are both certified, so do that. We also have, and both of them are also CPR instructors too. So we do offer CPR classes both to town hall employees and other organizations in town. Sometimes there's a small fee associated with if you want your CPR card. Other times it's free of charge. So the actual class isn't a charge, it's getting the CPR cards and stuff like that. So if you know anybody that is looking for that, also we run those periodically, both for private agencies and our agency too. So, but back to the smoke and carbon monoxide alarms. So the single CO alarms, we'll just have the standard 4 beeps. So the standard 4 beeps, so the single CO alarm will be like that, and a straight smoke alarm will have 3 beeps. They call it temporal 3 and temporal 4. So locations of these, a minimum of 1 on every level, typically at the base of every stairwell, and then outside of every sleeping area is the minimum, and then it goes up from there from the time when the house was built or the code, the applicable code at the time. But basically, we want a smoke alarm in every bedroom, a smoke and CO just outside of every bedroom or sleeping area, and then a few sporadic, the base of every stairwell, and then a few extras on if you have a large house. If you there's houses in town that are 4 5,000, 6,000 square feet,
Wow.
you're gonna have a lot of smoke alarms throughout the whole house. So,
They're very expensive.
they are very expensive too. And it seems the ones that are required by code, or the higher demand ones, are the ones that are more expensive.
Oh, yeah.
There's older technology that's not allowed in some those ones you can get for really cheap money, but it's not allowed in certain circumstances. So, so they are expensive. They have lifespan, so all these have a 10-year lifespan now. Some of the COs have a 5 or 7 year, but if it's a combination smoke and CO, it's 10 years. If it's a smoke only, it's 10 years lifespan. And they'll have a date on the back, a date of manufacture, and it's 10 years from that, unless on the newer ones they have it on the side here, date of install. When this gets powered up for the first time it gets installed, it will be 10 years from that date of install. So if it's not written on the side, then we just fall back by the manufacturer date. So they should be tested monthly. They should be, if you have a replaceable battery on the hardwired ones, once a year is good enough. We tell people to change the clocks, change your batteries. But as the technology of both the smoke alarms and the battery technology has gotten better, they last longer. So it used to be twice a year. Now once a year is good enough. They should be vacuumed out. They get dusty and dirty over time. A couple times a year should be vacuumed out. If you go by what the manufacturer says exactly, it's like quarterly or even monthly. When you do the monthly test, you're supposed to vacuum them monthly. That's a lot. If you can get it done a couple times a year, that's better than not at all.
Vacuum.
Yeah.
I'm
So,
gonna get that big thing up there.
no, get the extension on it, you know, and get the little brush on it and just vacuum it around, because bugs and dust and stuff like that can
How about
cause.
cigarette smoke?
Cigarette smoke can actually set off the alarm too, so. I mean, smoking, you should be smoking outside, so. Any questions on the smoke or
Yeah.
CO?
Number one, I always thought those went to the top of the stairway, not to the bottom. Because in my cellar, as you probably already
Yes.
know, I
Yep.
put it at the top and not the bottom.
Yeah, and one of the, years ago, in one of the old code, it used to be bottom and top, now it's just the bottom, because the
Okay.
stairwell acts like a chimney, so it will want to draw the smoke and the products of combustion up that stairwell, so you want to have the bottom, because that's, unless it's a basement, that's, you know, for the second floor and stuff, that's your
This is the
major
basement.
egress
Right.
out. You know, if it's in the basement, you still need it at the bottom of the stairs, but a lot of the older homes, there wasn't living space down there, so that one at the bottom is not, you know, there's nothing to protect for egress usually down there.
And the other one is the monoxide, carbon monoxide tester.
Yep.
As like on the boilers, I was told you put them 3 to 4 feet away.
Yeah.
And I've been installing them on boilers for.
So under the gas code, it's required to have one, they put one in before we had the code for carbon, they put one in to have it within that so many feet of a appliance. You install a new appliance, you need to have that carbon
Right.
monoxide installed there. That's still in there under their code. They were, we'll say the politics of it, they were supposed to remove that out of the code once our code kicked in, but they haven't done that, so that's still in there. So
Do we
you can
have-
you can have that extra one at the appliance, but there's not really, what we require is by the base of the stairs, or
Okay.
if you have a bedroom in that, down in that basement, and there's a heating appliance, you know, in a closet somewhere, you want it outside that bedroom.
Okay. In my case, I'm gonna put them in anyway, 3 or 4 feet away. But we had a woman here, Sullivan, Mrs. Sullivan, that almost died because she had carbon monoxide from a boiler downstairs. And the alarm kept going off, and the fire department came and got her out. They tested, it was probably you.
Yeah.
It was extremely high.
Yeah, if they
From that day
go,
on, I put in carbon monoxide testers.
you can never, for the most part, you can never have too many devices usually. Yeah, it costs a little extra, but, you know, carbon monoxide is, there's time to get out. It's not an immediate danger right then and there. Like if a fire happens, you have minutes to get out.
Get out.
Carbon monoxide, it takes time to build up to the higher levels. It can build up quickly, but not like a fire can.
And you
So-
don't smell it.
You don't smell it, you can smell the other products of combustion that are
Yeah.
involved in that, but true carbon monoxide, you don't smell. But yeah, typically you have 3 to 4 carbon monoxides on an average house. You have them in your house. In the smoke alarms, you can have that 3 to 4 up. You can have 12, 15 smoke alarms within the house. So it can be a lot. You know, the new code, everything's hardwired and interconnected, with battery backup. And anything nowadays that's battery only has to have a sealed battery, so you don't change the battery, you don't replace the batteries. So if it's just a battery operated smoke alarm, it's a sealed battery, you turn it on, it's good for 10 years. So then our thing of changing your clocks, changing your batteries, that's out the window with the sealed battery units. So.
When that voice came on,
Mm-hmm.
you could really hear it. That's the way mine are. Is that the standard?
There's some of them, yes, they're not as ear piercing as what they used to be, and the voices, they wanted the voice to kind of be like cool, calm, and collective too. So, not to scare you really, to get out, you know, yeah,
So you're
get
not-
out of the building.
Yeah.
There is no way to make it louder.
Not to my knowledge, there's, when you get into system type, which is, you know, kind of like they have a fire alarm system here in this building. When you get into system type, there's other things that you can program. There's things that a technician can alter and adjust. They can increase the volume on those. They can change the voices, stuff like that. These are a little bit more simple devices. They're not, some of them you can, they've had ones that you can program for children, you go program the parent's voice in it, you know, to tell them to get out of bed. They have one hearing impaired, if you're hearing impaired, or have some other disabilities, you can, there are ones that have those special features that are meant for that. So they have ones that will have just the flashing light if you're deaf, you know, and along those lines, so.
Well, I was talking to somebody, that's what I meant, because I see yours is above mine.
Yes, yeah, this,
I was talking to somebody else, they said, oh, mine's so loud.
yeah, depending on the manufacturer, they have a minimum requirement for dB.
For the voice.
For the voice,
Basically, that's what I'm talking about.
the voice, there's no, to my knowledge, there's no actual requirement on the level
Yeah, so mine are
of the
okay.
voice. Yeah, yeah. It's more just to let you know, it's for us, for when you guys have an alarm, it's to let us know that for fire alarm, we're responding differently than for carbon monoxide alarm. So we want to know if it's a fire alarm or if it's a carbon monoxide alarm. Outside of that, we're not too concerned. Because the carbon monoxide alarm will be like one truck versus a fire alarm. If there's a fire, we're going to be bringing the whole department off, you know, pretty much. So,
Well, in my case, they're good because my wife uses it for a cooking timer. Oh, I'm sorry.
yeah, some of them, I mean, they have technology that's supposed to limit that, but you still have to keep it a distance away from your cooking appliance and everything like that. They're not meant to be right in the kitchen, but a lot of places will have a bedroom right off the kitchen. Well, that complicates things now, you know, for these. So, any other questions on the smoke and carbon monoxide alarms? No? Okay, perfect. Now, some basic, we'll say, home safety things for trip fall hazards. Things like that, extension cords, a lot of that stuff, we don't, you know, extension cords are meant for temporary use, but having them out in permanent use isn't what they're meant for. They cause a tripping hazard, they cause a fire hazard. Loose rugs, stuff like that, that's a big, we go into a lot of calls all the time into houses for whatever the type of medicals, and a lot of loose rugs that we gotta pull out of the way for either the stair chair or the stretcher to get in and out, because it causes problems with that, but it also causes a huge tripping hazard for anybody, even for anybody it causes a tripping hazard. So, I've tripped on them myself at my own home. So, let's see. I just want to make sure I hit all the points that might want to hit. So, before I move on to the cooking. For your heating appliances, electrical, typically in the basement, your electrical panels, anything like that, keeping stuff away from it, should have at least a 3-foot clearance around all your heating appliances. Your electrical panel, you should have at least a 3-foot clearance getting to all that. I know we accumulate stuff over time, and it's just, you never have enough storage space. So it's, but it's for your safety and for our safety going in. If we had to shut the electrical off to the house immediately, or we had to shut the appliance off, we get to it, and then having that 3-foot clearance is for any combustible material or anything like that. It could potentially cause a fire if you're that close to a heating appliance. Clear stairways, clear walkways, excessive clutter, excessive fire hazard stuff. Get out, recycle it and dispose of it, if it's not needed. I think that's about it for the interior of the house. For outside of the cooking appliances, I want to do that separately. Yeah. So, cooking fires, still a big. It's still, I think it's still the number one. I didn't check the most current statistics, but it's still the number one cause of fires and burns and stuff is from cooking appliances. They have a couple different mottos: stand by your stove, keep a lid nearby. There's a lot of different acronyms or catchphrases that they have. But ultimately, the most common thing is just whether it's this or even microwaves. We see it a lot with microwaves and toaster ovens, the actual ovens, not a toaster, is people will put stuff in there and they'll, especially with digital now, they'll add an extra 0 or something like that. So instead of 2 minutes, it's 20 minutes. Then they'll get sidetracked and then they'll come back and the microwave's on fire, or the toaster oven's on fire, or whatever's inside of it's on fire. It happens a lot more, for those items, happen a lot more in commercial properties, and they, the lunch, the little lunch area, because they don't have a cooking stove there. They typically have a microwave, and it's very easy at work to get sidetracked for, oh, I get 2 minutes, I'm going to run and take this phone call or something like that. They're on the phone call for 10 minutes, and that's on fire. So those are more common than the other fires, but they're all considered cooking fires, and they all pose similar hazards and different hazards. So for cooking fires, pot holders, I know some of the stuff we have. If you want to take it afterwards, they do have these pot holders in
I
here.
use mine all the time.
Yeah, they're actually really good. They're really good pot holders. I mean, these ones are a little small,
But they're good.
but they're good.
Yeah.
So, and then I don't have these ones. This is the one that just comes with this. So, for this instance here, always have a cover nearby for if need be. If there is anything that actually catches fire, for this one here, I have, for our little prop, it has this here. So, I know. So ultimately, you have your pot holders, you have your cover. Something happens, you don't want to put water, you don't want to do anything. The biggest thing is stuffing it out. Come from the side, cover it, there you go, and let it sit. Don't try to lift it up and bring it to the sink. Bring it to, I forgot to turn that on. But I'll do that for later. So when you guys get up here and try it. But yeah, you don't want to put water. That increases fire. I have plenty of videos that I have that a lot of them are kitchen, commercial kitchens applications where not thinking, they've thrown water on it, this, that, and the whole thing flares right up, and it's pretty scary. There's ones of for turkey fryers, and that's a whole different safety talk, but turkey fryers that people drop on, they do all around Thanksgiving. They advertise that stuff, but it doesn't take much for that grease to catch fire. So ultimately like that, sometimes even just turning off your burner, it will decrease the heat enough if you have a fire, or if it gets really smoky, but there's no fire, you turn that off, you move it to a burner that's not hot anymore. So you move it to the side. You move it to the side if it's not on fire. Even after it, you turn everything off and you just leave it and let it sit, let it cool down. If it stops smoking, not a problem. You don't want to quickly go open it back up again, and it's going to most likely flare back up on you. So, any questions on that? And the oven, usually with the oven, if something happens, leave it shut. That's designed to keep the whatever you're cooking hot. It's meant to be hot inside. So shut it off and leave it closed. Call us. Those ones, that's where usually people open it and then try to move the big pot that's either on fire or just smoking really badly.
Yeah.
So then that becomes either one. Whenever you move it, that's where there's more increased risk for injury and burns because of that moving that hot liquid, and it's gonna scald you and burn you really bad. So everything is pretty much just cover it, shut it off, leave it, let it sit. Call it, we'll gladly come out and just confirm that everything is all set, there's no fire, we can open it up, we can take things out for you. We put, depending on how bad a fire potentially was, we'd remove the stove too. But 90% of the time, the stove stays in place and everything was contained to the cooking pot or the oven, usually. So, any questions on that?
Good so far.
Okay. So we'll practice with that if any of you want to do that afterwards. Fire extinguishers. Does anybody want to know about fire extinguishers?
Sure.
Okay, perfect. I was hoping that would be your answer.
And
So-
you sweep the base, that's all.
Yeah, so for home fire extinguishers, we have them all over the place here. Commercial locations, depending on what the occupancy and everything like that, varies on how many they need and locations of them. Residential occupant, I say one per floor, it's whatever you are comfortable with and want, and have them accessible. Some people have them stuffed under their sink or in the back of the closet. That's not where they should be out and accessible. As long as some people don't like to see them, so they still want them hidden. As long as you can get to it right away and you know right where it is in a house, it's not required, but it's highly recommended. So as long as you can get to it right away, if it's, mine personally is I open my cellar door, it's right there. So it's kind of out of the way, but it's very accessible.
You hear a lot about baking powder or baking soda for putting on fire?
Yeah, you can do that. It's not recommended. Some of the, if you do flour or some of the other baking powders can actually catch fire and they can be like an explosion. So they do make some stuff that you can, it comes in a can that it's an extinguishing powder agent, just like the Ansel that would be in the fire extinguisher that you can sprinkle on. They do make them, that's what I would recommend and use, but the biggest thing is having covers. Snuffing it out is one of the best ways to put out a fire, because then you start doing that, now it's making a mess. Even using an extinguisher, it's making a mess. But if it's beyond the pot, then you have to do something of like an extinguisher type, or just get out and call us. So we don't want anybody to get in a position where they get themselves hurt or trapped. If you're not comfortable, if it's too big, just get out and call 911. So that's with anything. So fire extinguishers, yeah, one per level of the home. In your garage or your shed, if you have one of those, you can have. This is like a 5-pound. Those are a little bit bigger. Just the bigger they are, the more fire they put out. That's ultimately, that's what I tell people. The bigger they are, the more fire they put out. There's ABC extinguishers, which these two are. This standard ordinary combustible material, which is the water cans and stuff like that. Most average home, you're just going to have a standard ABC Ansel extinguisher. Let's see, what else on this? Yeah, no, think it's-
how to use.
Well, no, before I get to how to use, I wanna make sure that I got everything. So, oh yeah, and then there's expirations on these. There's some that are throwaway. You buy them, you're good for X amount of years. If they didn't get used, you throw them away. Then there's ones that you can recharge, like these ones, typically commercial ones, you can get them inspected, and then certified on a specific basis. And then they're good for a long duration time.
And
So-
where do you throw them away though?
So, if they're discharged, if they're plastic, they're all plastic, it's just regular trash. You can throw it in your regular dumpster. If it's metal and it's discharged, it can go metal recycling. So, the biggest thing is that as long as it's been discharged, there's no pressure in here, it can go into one of those recycling locations. We take the bigger extinguishers, we'll take them at the fire station, and I use them for some of the commercial businesses in town need live fire extinguisher training. So I'll go in and I'll use those extinguishers in that live fire training, and then we'll just dispose of them afterwards. So it kind of, they're past their life in that sense, but for us, as long as in that training environment, most of them have worked. There's been a few where we went and used them and they didn't work. It's like, okay, well, here's a good training experience, now what do? You know, do you have another extinguisher? Do you have another coworker that's coming with an extinguisher or whatnot? So most of those are like the industrial manufacturing where they have to have the live fire training. So extinguishers, if you're good in the green, your arrow's good in the green, it's clean, it's not destroyed, it's not rusted, anything like that, you should be good to go. Pull the pin, the acronym is PASS. So pull, aim, squeeze, and sweep. So you pull the pin, aim at the base of the fire, squeeze the handle, and sweep. The nozzle, some of these will just have the nozzle right here, so then you're sweeping, you're just like turning the wrist or sweeping the arm. So, we tell people it's meant for you to egress out, get out of your house, or get out of if you're in a business or something like that and there's a fire. It's meant for you to get out and call us to come. So, don't do anything that you're gonna get yourself into trouble. If you don't feel comfortable, just get out.
What would be the closest you would get to a fire with one of those?
It depends on the size of the fire, but usually 4 to 6 feet away is a good distance. And so you can get a little closer as you stand and you're sweeping, and then you can back up a little bit as you don't want to turn and just walk away from the fire. And we'll go through it when I'll run through it on that one too. But you don't want to turn away from the fire and walk away, because then the fire can flare up on you. So. I'll bring one to me.
Ooh, hey.
And then this one tells me that's how long it took, but then I'd back up from there. So I can set it to where it would never go out for you guys. I'm not gonna do that.
What was the A for?
So the A is for the class fire. There's Class A, Class B, Class C. Class A is ordinary combustible material. Class B is electrical. No, Class B is fuel. Class B is fuel liquid, and Class C is electrical, but it's energized electrical. So if it's anything de-energized, then it's just usually ordinary combustible material. So
So the ones we used to, the big ones with water?
the old soda can, like the,
Down,
yeah.
that's for just A.
Those were just for, well, the soda water, I think that might have been for B as well, I'm not sure, depending on what the chemical that was in there. So that's going back a long time ago.
Yeah, well, we used to redo them every October. We'd have them come down and we put the powder in
Yes,
and do water.
yeah.
How
Yeah.
long is it yearly you're supposed to recheck those?
So these are supposed to be checked yearly, at least in the commercial, they're supposed to be checked yearly.
I meant the water one, the water one.
Oh, the water ones, it falls under the same, kind of the same code.
Oh, yeah.
So we check yearly, but then like the cylinder, this is a compressed cylinder, so that they have to have them hydroed, and those are usually either 3 or 5 years, depending on the material. Some of the throwaway ones, for you guys, you buy them off the shelf, and they'll have a 5-10 year, and that's, as long as they're still good in the green, they're good. You don't have to have those tested. So, they have lower pressures and stuff like that. And the chemical makeup inside is different, so. Any other questions? No. So that is it, other than once you guys, so the stuff that I have up here for you, if you want to take something, take it. If you don't want to take it, you don't have to. So I do have some water bottles. I have more in the box over there. There's more information on cooking. There is a pot holder, and these things are great. The grippy,
Oh, yeah.
for added assistance. I use these all the time too. So those are great. These are almost identical. These are the older ones. These are new ones. So this is a shopping bag that comes with it too. But these don't have the pot holders in here. Then we have, there's the file of life, so medical information. We have these, you can stick them on your fridge, on the side of your fridge. It's just it's just sticky on the back side here. Typically we tell people on the fridge, because if the other manufacturer makes an actual like big medicine file that sits inside the fridge. So if no one was home with you and we needed medical information, it'd be here. There's some sheets I have somewhere, I think it's over there, that have, it's just basic information, your information, past medical history, medications, just the generic basic information, medical history for you. So if someone, even a neighbor or friend that doesn't know that information, it would be there available for any emergency services that's coming to your house. So you can take, I have plenty of these, you can take one if you know someone that needs them that you want to give it to, take two. So, and that, and then I have a couple other pamphlets, which I know Michelle passed out some, and pencils too. You can never have enough pencils. So, any other questions before any of you want to get up and try these?
Is that battery missing, or they gonna put battery in?
Yep, that battery is missing, yep. So, it's probably being replaced, it's probably
It's
out.
all being rewired. It's all-
Yeah.
Yeah, because they're antiquated, so
Yeah, those are
they're
the,
lit enough that if the lights go out, they still,
Yeah, I always thought I
They
was
still show.
antiquated.
yeah, you're supposed to only, you need to have at least the minimum candle power at your feet. So, yeah, with that one's enough for right now, but they make them now LED, and the battery pack, that battery pack is pretty big up in there. Nowadays, it's, the battery pack's probably half the size of this. It's so small, LED takes very small amount of power, so.
No sprinklers, not required?
No sprinklers in here, no. When this was built, it wasn't required. So, just the fire alarm system, as you can see, you got the pull stations over there, and then you have them in different areas, that's all, that's just a fire alarm warning system to get people out.
like Robin had said, every year our fire extinguishers get inspected, and they come and they check all of the smoke detectors that we have up there, up in the ceiling, they clean them off, and then many of you have probably been here when they tested it, because I've had to tell you, plug your ears. So they recently tested those too. So every year we have to go through having all those things fixed.
Yeah, there's different companies out there that will service your extinguishers, service the fire alarm systems, so service sprinkler systems where they're required. This building is just old enough to where it wasn't required at the time of the, when this was built. So, because the code is required, as years pass, code gets stricter or it gets developed better, but you can't make anything that's pre-existing. There's no real retroactive code. It's very hard to have a retroactive code come in because of the cost that's usually involved in it. The most recent that I know of is the carbon monoxide alarm code was a retroactive law. So it went right across the board. But it gave the option of battery operated, hardwired, and interconnected, versus having them hardwire everything. So, any other questions?
I'm good.
You're good? You wanna come up and,
There's a future for you in this business. I can see that.
there's a lot of different businesses that could be done off of, it could be inspect fire extinguishers, like fire alarm systems, sprinkler systems, it's a lot of,
How many hats can one person wear?
yeah. Then on the fire side, we have to have our fire hose, tested, inspected annually. We have to have our fire pumps inspected, tested annually. The air packs that we wear on our backs, those are inspected annually. Our ground ladders and our aerial ladder have to be inspected annually. All the vehicles, just like your vehicles, have to be inspected annually. And there's a bunch of other stuff that needs to
You
be.
see that fire station that nobody's building?
It's beautiful. It's going to be a beautiful fire station.
Has to go with their beautiful fire truck.
Yeah, exactly. We'll need a new fire truck at some point, but not. Yes, Michelle.
Quick question for you. I've been asked several times, how long have you been here on the fire department?
Does anybody remember?
21 years.
21
Did you
years.
already say that?
21.
Yeah,
I said it right
okay.
at the beginning. 21
I
years.
wasn't even-
Yeah, you weren't. You
You
had.
missed the party.
I'm right.
It took them that long.
We
to
already
get
know
that question.
Yeah.
It took them that
Any
long
other
to get
questions
that
you
much
missed?
No,
done.
I'm right, I might have to rewatch this.
Dresser. Robin Dresser.
You live in town?
I do live in town. Yep.
Go put the fire out on the stove, start everybody off.
Right?
The who? Oh yeah. How I started. Yeah.
Michelle should be the first
Right.
one to put the fire out on the stove.
Yeah, you can do this.
Sure.
Yeah, and the extinguisher too. So, let's see.
So what's with the little pan?
You can use the same cover.
You want to put the apron on too?
Yeah. A little later on, maybe.
So, the little pan's just for added.
Ah,
This is really like the main feature here, and then they do have a screen down here that you can have a fire in there, but you can't open this up, it shows the fire just to keep it closed.
The little pan, I mean, you can use the same cover to cover the little pan if
You
it was
can,
on
yeah.
fire, right?
Yep, yeah, as long as it's bigger. Now, if the cover was that small, and you were like this, you're not
Yeah,
covering the whole
no,
pan,
no,
so you're still gonna
it
have
doesn't
fire
work.
going around. But yeah, as long as it's bigger than,
there you go, now
Yeah.
you know.
so having a little bit bigger of a cover is better than too small of a cover, or no cover at all, so.
Right.
But most of the time, three-quarters of the time that I'm cooking, I usually have a cover, I'm covering or uncovering it, depending on what
I
it is.
try not to cook. Yeah.
By popular demand.
Oh, and then, I did, handles, they should all turned in or turned to the back. That's what this other pan's for too, is for the handle aspect. Yeah, because a lot of people will be cooking whatever, and then they'll leave it like that. It's very easy to accidentally tip it, knock it on yourself, tip it over. Even kids, young kids or anything like that, grabbing at that. So always having it turned in or turned to the back, because usually there's a
Like that
countertop on either side.
When you turn my handle in,
Well,
you
it's
know.
nothing in it, so what the hell?
Yeah, exactly. So, there you go, Michelle.
I'm cooking one of Diane's recipes. Mine would have.
Diane burn, no.
And I would burn it, so.
Mine would burn. So, yeah, and then turn it on. There you go. So the only thing with that I would critique on you, Michelle,
You gotta slide.
would be
Slide it.
sliding it more versus you came down like this, coming down like this.
There's an air there.
Right.
She wasn't here when she saw it now. So, but overall, she did very well. So, that would be my only critique on that, so.
Good job.
Yeah, give me an A minus. B.
Anybody else want to do this? Or the fire extinguisher
Good
problem?
stuff, good stuff.
Ah, we're good.